We've focused on a lot of urban legends from the USA, so it's time to take a trip far away to India. India is a very old country with some very big cities, and with so much history, folklore and urban legends are abundant. Anyone from India in the audience? Anyone familiar with any of the legends on this list? Let us know in the comments. I'm your host James, and these are the top 10 terrifying urban legends from India. And we're kicking off this list with the Muhnochwa. In 2002, there were a string of strange incidents reported in Uttar Pradesh linked to a creature called the Muhnochwa. Now, this was a tough case to research because there are several descriptions of this creature and they're about as vastly different as it gets. What ties them together is that the sightings happened at night, and whatever it was seemed to swoop down from the air and scratch the victims' faces. Some said it looked like a metal bird, sharp and shiny. Others described it as a monkey man with features of both a human and a primate. There were those who thought it resembled a small aircraft, and some insisted it was a large insect, almost like a massive sized grasshopper or something. So this caused a wave of mass hysteria, with people actually staying up all night in order to protect themselves from this thing or things. Till this day, we're not exactly sure what was going on here in the early 2000s, but reports died off almost just as fast as they began. Number 9, Nale Ba. The legend of the Nale Ba is pretty well known in Karnataka. Nale Ba refers to a sign some use to hang on their doors in order to ward off a malevolent spirit. Nale Ba translating to come tomorrow. This malevolent entity is a ghostly spirit who roams the streets at night, knocking on people's doors while calling out people's names. Those who answer her call are met with a gruesome death. In the 90s, a more specific version of the tale became popular. Nale Ba was said to be a witch stalking the streets at night, knocking on people's doors, this time imitating the voice of someone they knew, a loved one, a friend, pleading with the resident to open the door to let them in. They'd get more and more desperate as they spoke, sometimes more frustrated. If it managed to convince the person to open their door, they would die. So, if you ever find yourself in Karnataka, make sure to hang a sign on your front door with the words Nale Ba, and maybe sleep with your headphones in or something. Next up, we have the Ghost of Sanjay Van. Sanjay Van is a picturesque forest, dense with its old and winding banyan trees, but amongst the trees are eerie tales of the supernatural, the most prominent being the legend of the White Lady. Local lore tells of a female ghostly figure, cloaked in white, wandering the forest depths before vanishing into thin air. People claim to have seen her semi-translucent form, often near the forest's cremation ground. Witnesses report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and coldness as the apparition appears and then vanishes. Some also claim to hear disembodied cries and laughter, specifically the sound of children playing, only they don't see any. Then at number 7, we have the Pavagada Wolves. This is a pretty disturbing case, or string of cases, all of which happened in 1983 in the small village of Pavagada in Karnataka. Several girls under the age of 5 began being snatched away in the night, even when their parents were close by. The first case happened in April of that year, and several would follow. They would be taken silently. The parents would have no idea what had happened until the following morning, when they'd discover they were missing. The remains would also be found, completely mangled as if they'd been attacked by some sort of rabid beast. Authorities would find paw prints at the site of each of the attacks, so a rogue wolf was believed to be responsible. There was something that wasn't adding up though. If it were just a standard wolf that was responsible, there would have been drag marks on the ground, but there weren't. It was as if whatever this animal was, it stood on 2 legs, carrying its victims instead of dragging them like a quadruped would. The villagers began fearing that tantrics were responsible, stealing their young ones to perform dark rituals. In the end though, this case is sadly somewhat of a mystery. At our number 6 spot is the Headless Ghost of Lothian Cemetery. This Christian cemetery at Kashmir Gate was built in 1808, and there are a number of European soldiers buried there. One particular soldier, named Nicholas, is said to roam the cemetery at night, carrying his own head in his arms. There are different stories as to how he lost his head. One legend says he was beheaded during the Indian Rebellion of 1857 and was buried without his head. Another version goes that he fell in love with an Indian woman but became heartbroken when he was unable to marry her. He was so distraught that he ended up taking his own life. How he managed to sever his own head, I'm not sure. Maybe during a battle he just shoved it into a cannon or something. Number 5, the Yeti. We've all heard of the Yeti before. This is basically the snowy mountain-dwelling version of Sasquatch. It's said to roam the Himalayas, including parts of India, Nepal, and Tibet. So imagine a big, hairy creature, something like a mix between an ape and a bear, but walking upright like a person. White fur, that's what people claim to have seen. Local stories from the Himalayan region in India talk about this creature being huge, covered in fur, and surprisingly strong. Some say they've seen it from afar, a mysterious figure moving swiftly through the snowy mountains. The Yeti grabbed worldwide attention in the 50s, though, when explorers and climbers started reporting enormous footprints and sometimes even glimpses of these creatures during their trips. Just like Bigfoot, though, nobody's ever caught one of them, so its existence is still unconfirmed. Next up, we have the Faceless Ghost. Now, this is actually a piece of footage, not an urban legend, at least not yet, but this video has been making the rounds lately, so I think it's worth putting on the list. From what I've been able to gather, this bus driver was finishing his shift for the night. He'd arrived his last stop, but there was still someone on the bus. In the clip, we see the driver speaking to the woman, I believe asking her where she's going, before the woman turns to look at the camera, and oh boy, where's her face? It doesn't look like she's just being masked by shadow either. The whole face area looks completely black, almost like a Jawa from Star Wars or something. At this point, the driver gets freaked out and tells her she needs to leave the bus. Another man apparently says to call the police. The driver was so shaken that he actually got off the bus, spoke to authorities who had arrived at the scene, and apparently when he got back on the bus, the mysterious woman was gone. I don't know, she probably just had a face covering on or something like that, but you know, internet, it's fun to speculate and imagine. There's other stuff going on, right? And number 3, we have the Monkey Man. Now, this one is similar to the Muhnochwa. The reports happened around the same time. Some even lumped the Monkey Man in with that earlier case, but this one is specific enough that I think it deserves its own spot on the list. So in 2001, Delhi, India was caught up in this bizarre frenzy over a creature dubbed the Monkey Man. Monkey Man was described as a 4'6" to 5'6" hairy humanoid with glowing eyes and metal claws. Some witnesses even said it wore a silver helmet and had an almost military type outfit on, terrorized the city, jumping from building to building like Spider-Man. People were terrified of the idea of encountering this aggressive clawed monkey, so they started staying indoors after dark. Attacks were being reported all the time, but even with all the investigations and media coverage, the Monkey Man was never caught or identified. And over time, the panic died down and the Monkey Man became another urban legend. In at second place, we have Kuldhara. This Rajasthan ghost town is believed to have been inhabited by the Paliwal Brahmins who abandoned it overnight in the early 19th century. The reasons for this sudden mass exodus are not 100% known, but there's a legend surrounding it. Story goes that the minister of the state, Salim Singh, fell in love with a beautiful daughter of the village chief. Fearing his wrath, the villagers, rather than succumbing to his demands, decided to leave the village en masse, leaving behind a curse that anyone who tried to inhabit the land would face dire consequences. Over the years, Kuldhara has earned a reputation as a haunted village. Visitors report strange occurrences like ghostly apparitions, whispers in the wind, and sudden drops in temperature. Some have even claimed to hear the laughter of children or see shadows moving in the deserted streets. The place is said to be so haunted that locals recommend staying as far away from it as possible after dark. And that's going to bring us to our number 1 spot. Finally, at number 1, we have Bhangarh. Bhangarh in the Alwar district of Rajasthan has become known as one of the most mysterious and haunted places in India. In fact, probably takes that number 1 spot. The story goes that a tantric, a practitioner of black magic, fell in love with Princess Ratnavati, the beautiful daughter of the Madhav Singh who built the city. Hoping to win her love, he tried to use dark magic, but the princess saw through his plans and turned his spell right back on him. In his dying moments, the tantric cursed the fort and the surrounding area, leading to its infamous reputation. According to local lore, the fort and its vicinity are completely haunted. It's believed that entering the fort after sunset or before sunrise will bring terrible misfortune. So terrible, in fact, that the place is completely off limits after sunset. The Archaeological Survey of India put up a board at the fort's entrance warning visitors against being inside the premises during night hours. And visitors have reported various supernatural occurrences. Whispers, cries, footsteps echo throughout the fort, and some claim to have seen ghostly apparitions wandering the area. All that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.